For Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Economic Development. What is the government doing to encourage more investment throughout New Zealand?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, there has been very significant investment flows recently, both internally and through international investment into New Zealand businesses, which helps grow jobs and incomes. Last month I announced the creation of a new strategy to attract more international business investment. The New Zealand Investment Attraction Strategy is being led by a team from NZTE, MB, MFAT, Callaghan Innovation and the Treasury, and are working with the private sector to create a pipeline of strong investable opportunities and promote them. Attracting more investment will enhance our export markets and international linkages, introduce new technologies and processes, create more skilled jobs and increase regional economic activity.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
What are some recent examples of investment in New Zealand?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's been a substantial amount of new investment in New Zealand in just the last couple of years, both domestically and from international sources. For example, in the forestry processing industry, last year OG Holdings of Japan made a $1 billion investment in Carter Holt Harvey's pulp, paper and packaging holdings, adding to their interest in Panpac and Napier, and are investing in developing those. In the dairy industry, we're seeing around $2 billion worth of new investment in the value-added section of the manufacturing. Westland Milk's construction, for example, of a new $102 million dryer for nutritionals in Hokitika and a UHT plant in Rolleston. New investments by Fonterra in areas such as cream cheese, UHT and mozzarella cheese. Filipino company URC has invested nearly $750 million through their purchase of Griffins, and they are investing further in that plant. And it's these sorts of investments that help economic growth across New Zealand.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What other measures is the government taking to encourage more New Zealand business to invest and grow?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, with the likes of Tate Communications, Wynyard Group and Gallagher's, we're seeing a number of innovative Kiwi companies successfully competing on the world stage for government contracts, and that's set to grow, with New Zealand today acceding to the World Trade Organisation's government procurement agreement that will guarantee New Zealand companies access to bid for around $1.7 trillion in annual overseas government contracts across 43 member countries, including the US, Canada, Japan and the European Union. This is a very significant agreement, and along with our other trade agreements, are an important part of the government's goal of growing investment and growth in New Zealand companies.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Dr. Parmjeet Parmar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What reports has he seen of other potential policy approaches to international investment?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've seen a number of reports. Interestingly, they all come from the same source and all on the same day, but say different things. The first report stated the last thing we needed was more foreign ownership. That was followed up in record time, less than an hour later, saying the country was built on foreign investment and that we needed more of it. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, this is the sort of high-speed flip-flopping that we're starting to see quite regularly from Labor.
I've heard enough on that answer. Supplementary question, Dr. David Clark.
After 7 years, does he consider investment in New Zealand has been successful when exports as a percentage of GDP have dropped since his government took office and are projected to drop further still?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, well, firstly, one of the reasons they've dropped is because of the statistical change from Statistics New Zealand, which has equally affected the Members' Party's performance when they were in office as well, because it actually applies, I think it's about every year since 1995. The good news for the member is that we have set a target by 2025. That requires around $160 to $200 billion worth of additional investment in our export sectors. This government is committed to achieving this. The opposition, as we found out yesterday, has no idea what they think about international investment.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. David
Well, in
Clark.
respect of his 2025 growth target, does he accept the Honourable Bill English's statement that growth would need to double to reach it? And if so, what is he doing about that isn't already in his business growth agenda, because it doesn't seem to be working?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I suggest the member actually listens to the first three answers to the question this afternoon, actually, because I've just announced an investment attraction strategy that we're working together to increase the already growing pace of international investment. And, of course, Mr Clark doesn't listen because he's too busy yelling out something about he's the worst MP in 50 years.
Question number 5, the Honourable David Parker.